I'd like to address Idubbbz Apology video from yesterday. I feel that there are a lot of people who are giving him criticism because he apologized for some of his previous videos being very crude and utilizing slurs and problematic words in a way that was demeaning to marginalized people. Now, he made a statement in some of those previous videos that I actually feel is still valid. That either all of it's okay or none of it's okay. I still believe that that's a valid statement. I think that there are people who are using identity politics in order to say, well, this certain group of people is allowed to use this word, but if your skin shade is wrong, this other group of people isn't allowed to say this word. I disagree with that. I don't believe in controlling speech based on a trait that a person is not born with. If your skin is light or if your skin is dark, you shouldn't be saying the N-word. It doesn't matter. Now, I believe that that's what Idubbbz was trying to say in a very crude fashion in his videos in the past. Now, could it possibly be that he was too crude about it? He could have been more graceful. He could have been more refined. He could have straight up just said, I don't believe that that's right, that a person should have a certain skin shade for this word to be okay. But instead, he was performative and comedic about it and all of that. But I don't believe that those words, that those previous videos were actually coming from a place of racism. I don't believe that if somebody says the N-word to describe taking umbrage to the hypocrisy of people with darker skin using the word that is demeaning, is okay. If he stated it like that, it would have been okay. He was crude, but at the time, crude humor was in fashion, so he basically just utilized his platform to make his statement. The problem I have with the video that he uploaded yesterday is when he made the statement that either it's all okay or it's not okay, I, as a woman of color, felt validated. And the reason why I felt validated was because I had faced racism from both black individuals and white individuals, because I am somewhere in between. America has this polarized view that the only categories that people are allowed to fit under are black or white. Asian, Middle Eastern, Hispanic, everybody in between doesn't exist. And that's very, very, that is in itself problematic. You're erasing other cultures when you have that idea. So this whole rule that an offensive slur is only okay to be spoken about by a person of color, it doesn't make any sense to me. I see that as actually more racist than if you were to describe the word and the problems behind it and the problems behind the ideology that, well, certain people can say it but not others. It's a very childish way of thinking to declare, well, I can say it but you can't, na 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 na. That's only going to cause more division. That's only going to cause more pain. It is not the way we want to go when discussing racial issues and the racial divide. Everyone should not say this word. It is an ugly word that is unkind, and the history of the word is based on evil things. I think that was what Idubbbz, younger Idubbbz, 27-year-old Idubbbz, was trying to say, but he did it in a performative way that maybe could have been a little bit more sensitive. But you have to remember that he's a comedian. He's not a public speaker. He's not an influencer that is used to make political statements. He's a comedian, so he did it in a comedic fashion, similar to South Park, for example. I do agree with this statement that it's not okay for anyone to say that word. And there are people who have a lot of melanin, very dark-skinned people, who feel the same way. Rappers who utilize those words also use words that are misogynistic and violent and unkind, and everybody just looks the other way because, well, they have a certain skin color, so it's okay when they're abusive. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not okay when anyone is racist. You can't try to tell me that when I went to a predominantly black school and I was called a yellow N-word, and then I went to a predominantly white school and the kids made fun of me because my mom made me pasteles for lunch. And they used to call me, oh, you know, Spanish people are so gross, you know. Those are both instances of racism. The kids with the dark skin, the kids with the light skin, the kids that participated in that behavior were wrong to do so. That's all that Idubbbz was saying, except in his apology video, he basically made the statement that because his skin is white, he is not permitted to speak on such things. I have an issue with that. I also have an issue with the fact that he was basically saying that using the F word, and I'll talk about the crystal, it rhymes with the crystal agate, was offensive coming from a man such as himself. I think it's offensive coming from anyone. And it's a slur. Slurs shouldn't be spoken by anyone at all, across the board. People who want to play games and say, oh, well, you shouldn't be wearing box braids because your skin's not dark enough, but you can wear box braids, or you shouldn't be cooking Mexican food in your restaurant because you're not really Mexican, even though you are a chef who, you know, learned how to do that. All of those childish rules are only fortifying the racial divide. They're only fortifying the us versus them. We have to actually come together as a species. I mean, I would think that the pandemic taught us at least that doesn't matter what color your skin is. You could get COVID. You could die. That was the reality check that I feel like the pandemic gave all of us. And by Idubbbz apologizing for making any commentary about the inconsistencies and the childish behavior that some people are doing in the name of progressivism, by him apologizing and saying, I shouldn't be able to speak on that, I'm too white, he's only fortifying racism. He's only fortifying the fact that people don't see people of color as one of us, one of them. There's no us, there's no them. White people, black people, Asian people, everybody, we're all the same people. And we need to stop making these silly, immature statements. You can't cook Chinese food if you're not Chinese. You can't, that's one of the biggest problems that recently arose was Jada Pinkett Smith's Cleopatra documentary, where they tried to position it that the Egyptian individuals who took offense to them making a black actress play it instead of an Egyptian actress play it, well, that was them just being silly. Ignore the Egyptians. They just hate black people. But all that's really doing is creating more of a pariah of people of different races, sexes, creeds, all of that. We don't want to do that anymore. If the rule is that only black people play black characters, white people play white characters, or we race swap. We can't race swap in order to make racism go away. When you race swap that way, you're only drawing more attention to it. You're only drawing more vitriol, more nastiness. And I feel that that's wrong. Either it's okay to race swap across the board, which means if we're doing an African film and a Latina woman with black skin, because we exist, I'm not one of them, but if you go to the Dominican Republic, you see people walking around that look black, but they're not really black. They're Dominican. They're not African American. They have black skin. When you're doing that whole colorism type of thing, you are creating more of a problem. And the fact that Idubbbz is participating in that type of ideologue is, in my opinion, white-splaining. I mean, if he were to present his argument and say, you know what, the message still stands that if it's all okay, I mean, it's either all okay or none of it's okay. I believe that. However, my execution was a little crude. I apologize for that. I was trying to be dramatic. I was trying to be edgy. I was trying to be funny. But in hindsight, as I age, I look and I say, you know, I could have said that in a better way. I could have rephrased that. I didn't have to repeatedly say the N-word, you know, and just make it worse, because I respect his feeling that what he did was a problem because he kept saying the word over and over. I respect that. But what I don't respect is how he said, and I'm not even allowed to talk about this. Yes, you are, Idubbbz. You're allowed to talk about this. Everybody should be talking about this. If we're going to unify, everybody should be talking about this. Yes, you can be racist against black people. And yes, black people can be racist against white people. And black people can be racist against Jews. White people can be racist against Jews. Black people, white people, Jews, everybody can be racist against Asians, and Asians can be racist against everybody else. Everyone can be racist if they indulge in tribalistic, childish games like this. When we eradicate these type of things, we will eventually come to a place where we eradicate racism. The same applies for LGBTQ issues. We have to stop dividing ourselves. We have to stop thinking along those lines. So I don't appreciate Idubbbz Apology because I feel that it's disingenuous for him to make the statement that I'm not the person who can talk about this. Everyone should be talking about this. This should be an open conversation so we can fix it. We'll never fix it if we still play these silly little games. So cancel me if you want. I don't think anybody should be allowed to say that word. I don't think that word is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And I feel that, and I'm not the only person of color that feels that way. There are people who are darker than me that feel that way. There are African Americans that feel that way. And they speak on it on the regular. It's either all okay or none of it's okay. And personally, I think none of it is okay.